where's he going? But it was, yeah, mashallah. But the entire day was just very joyous. And I thought about Allah's name, Al-Basit. Allah's the expander. Inshirah, bast. These are all synonyms that refer to kind of an opening, an expansion. Happiness is associated with expansion. Joy is associated with expansion. Celebration is associated with bast. Right? So Allah's al-basit. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also al-qabid. Qabid is the constrictor. And constriction is associated with stress. It's associated with tension. It's associated with discomfort, dis-ease. Right? Allah is al-qabid and al-basit. Some people say that Ramadan, while on a spiritual level, certainly enjoyable, it is a time of great qabd. It's a time of certain kind of spiritual juhud, consternation. You feel pressed, squeezed by hunger and sleeplessness and that added devotion that one attempts to assume in the month of Ramadan. You're squeezed by that. And then Eid is like a day of celebration. Assalamu alaikum, Tanya. Eid is like a day of celebration. Everyone is happy and the occasion is very joyous and we're all thinking about what we're going to eat and where we're going to go. And this is, both of these are attributes of Allah. And you see those patterns over and over again. You will experience qabd and you will experience bast. Now, for someone that's been saying, I just don't feel God. Where is God? How is God? They might not recognize it as something as mundane as sorrow and joy. These are signs of God, right? You're experiencing al-qabid and al-basit in your sorrow and in your joy, right? And both of them are absolutely necessary for us to be sound, human beings. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name, Al-Mu'izz. Allah is the one who gives honor. Izzah, right? Izzah refers to honor, right? Wa alaikum salam. When we talk about Al-Mu'izz, Allah is the one who gives Izzah, gives honor. But Allah is also Al-Mudhil, the debaser, the one that gives dishonor. Or perhaps it can also be translated, the one that removes honor. So, Mudil, Mu'iz and Mudil, right? Mu'iz and Mudil. And one of the fascinating things about the names and attributes of Allah is that when you study them comprehensively, you begin to see everything. I think there's a modern tendency to only associate those things that are comforting to us with God. So we're experiencing great esteem and election. We all say, MashaAllah, it's from Allah. Everybody loves me, it's from Allah. But if we see someone experiencing the opposite of those, being dishonored, right? And being dishonored is not the same thing as losing popularity. And being honored is not the same thing as being popular. One should not conflate izzah and sum'ah. Sum'ah in Arabic is popularity, to be popular. Hey, everybody knows my name. Izzah is to be respected. It's not just to be popular. Some people are popular, but they're popular for the wrong things. It's like Kanye West is popular. Popular for what? Popular for what? Right? Izzah is different than popularity. And the dhul, or debasement, is not losing one's popularity. It's not being talked about. It's losing one's honor. And when we say honor, we mean honor among honorable people. But both of those are from God. Right? Both of those are from God. Both of those are from God. So, that's, we will probably resume covering the names and attributes. And I'm looking forward to making it through the remaining, say, 86, I think. I think we've done like 13, so. Yeah, at least. Yeah, we've done the remaining maybe 86. And it should be good. I mean, today, needless to say, I didn't have an opportunity to prepare, a class, coming off the Eid, and we went to Pinstripes yesterday. And did you guys go? It was like a party, a celebration at Pinstripes, like an Eid celebration. But you live in Oak Brook.
Oh, no, there's one in the street of
Okay, mashallah. Yeah, mashallah. So we went to, but
How was that?
it was my first time at the place. Allah is Kareem. Allah is generous, mashallah. Allah is Kareem. So, anything you guys thinking about? How has your post Ramadan experience been thus far? Kind of coming down. Yeah, coming down. Post Ramadan, yani, low enthusiasm, right? It's funny because during the month of Ramadan, I feel as though I grow more accustomed to being hungry, right? And it's just, by the middle of the month, you just get accustomed to functioning, doing everything that you need to do, while not satiating your appetite. And that just kind of becomes a norm, like self-restraint becomes a norm. And then outside of Ramadan, you realize how much you just snack, just incessantly, just go in the kitchen, grab a handful of this, handful of that, scoop of this, scoop of that, sip of this, sip of that. So I've been trying to still practice some of my Ramadan self-restraint, not just diving straight in. Now, going to a buffet yesterday probably didn't help me.
It's supposed to be really good at that brunch.
Yeah, it was, for a place to be so gimmicky, I was surprised at how good the food was. But yeah, I've been trying to hold on to some of that, as well as retaining that connection with the Quran. I find that many people read the Quran. La ilaha illallah Muhammad. Alaikum Sheikh. How are you? Good to see you, man. How you been?
Alhamdulillah.
How's that?
Still
Mashallah.
in school.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I know where you're coming from. Allah, I'm keeping tabs on you. No, that was the event for us. That was the event for us. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, no, I mean, so I've been trying to keep my connection with the Quran and come to think of it, yeah, I need to resume, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so things have been well. Looking forward to this summer session here at DIC. I don't have anything else, man. I should have prepared something, but my wife got caught up with this. She's on the what's called the LSC, which is a committee for choosing the principal at the school, and I mean it's so political. It's been such a stressful time for her. So I think she volunteered, but the process was like consumed.
Didn't know she was volunteering.
Yeah, she did. As is usually the case with volunteerism. You just want to just help out, and before you know it, it's completely taking over your life. But alhamdulillah.
I did catch your, I haven't been like this in my own meeting.
Mashallah, with
So,
Tani.
and then you talked about.
Yeah, no, mashallah, just a little bit every day. A little bit every day. You wanna stay away from extremes. Sidi Ahmed Zaruq, one classical scholar, he said every extreme is only followed by its opposite. So when you're like extremely dedicated, that will probably be followed by extreme laxity. Right? You burn out. You just get burnt out. It's like, okay, I can't do it anymore. But if you can approach your goals more gradually, you'll find greater success, number one, because I always say that with any goal-oriented task, success breeds enthusiasm. If you see success, you want to keep going. It's like, okay, and that's why I said, set the goal low enough initially that you can succeed. So if you say, I want to read a page of the Quran every day, it's a low enough goal, you can succeed at that. If you succeed at that, you'll want more. My own personal story, my initial engagement, and this ended up being not a mistake, but I would probably do it differently. I converted to Islam. Shortly after that, maybe a year and a half after that, I was in a madrasa memorizing the Quran. Right? So that was like, you know what I'm saying? So my initial exposure to the Quran was as a text that I intended to memorize. So I had review, I had daily memorization, I had to revise from the front of the juz that I was memorizing to the place that I had arrived to. And so the Quran was first for me a place of great responsibility. Like it was, dare I say, like a place of stress. It was taxing to me. Oh no, I'm behind, or like you said, I'm behind, or I'm behind, or I need to do this, I need to do that. And so when I stopped doing tahfidh al-Quran, when I stopped memorizing, I think for a long time I didn't approach the Quran just from shame. Like, oh man, I didn't finish my memorization. I get back in, and then I would read something that I had previously memorized, and now I had forgotten it. And it was, oh my God, I'm going to be raised on the day of judgment. I'm going to be blind. This is so terrible. And it took actually a friend of mine that said, before any hifz, before any hifz, just read the Quran for guidance and learn to enjoy it. Before you take on this task of like, memorize it, just read it, sit with it, enjoy it, and let that be your primary engagement with the book of Allah. And then afterward, after you've done that, if you want a more intentional relationship that includes memorization, maybe it will be safe for you to do that. But don't, you know. If anyone needs to pray, I've already prayed. Open format, inshallah. Open format. We'll be back to class next week, I promise, inshallah. You guys can just come in and just relax. And I'll do all the work, but today we're collaborating. Yes. I hadn't heard about anything in Malaysia. What's happening in Malaysia? Oh, he's traveling to Malaysia? In July? Hmm. I've always wanted to travel to Malaysia. So maybe I'll reach out to my sheikh, Dr. Omar, and see if there's room for a stowaway. We'll see. We'll see. Inshallah. Are you traveling to Malaysia? Inshallah. That should be very good. That should be very good. Yeah, no, man. They've really been spreading their wings lately. Colombia, Malaysia. You know, they have some presence in Colombia. They do some work in Colombia now as well. Yeah, this is good. It's good for people to experience, you know, that kind of exponent of Islam, that kind of Islamic teaching. It's very authentic, but very beautiful, intentionally beautiful, very balanced. You know what I'm saying? Very balanced, very authentic, not watered down in any way, but focused on, I think, those perennial truths of Islam that make it forever beautiful and inspiring to people. I think they do a very good job of that. We do a very good job. I consider myself among them, inshallah. Other questions, ideas, comments, anything anyone's been thinking about? Could be about really anything, you know, that pertains to Islam. I don't think I can answer any question, but I'm not afraid to say I don't know. You know, about anything that pertains to Islam.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Walaikum salam, rahmatullah.
How are you? Eid Mubarak.
Kareem, Allah, the more important question is, how are you?
You know, we're in the 2-week countdown, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, these are the blessed 2 weeks.
Oh, inshallah, keep us in your du'as, please.
Certainly. This is going to be a phenomenal period, mashallah.
Inshallah.
You and Eric, forget about it.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be wonderful, inshallah. It's going to be wonderful, inshallah. And we pray that Allah makes the process easy and provides you with, facilitation and, clarity of purpose. You can expect it to be momentous. I mean, it's labor, it's delivery, but inshallah, you'll have a kind of clarity of purpose that, will help you to endure it all, patiently and graciously, inshallah.
Ya Rab, Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
On a related note, so in anticipation of, and I hope, we'll discuss I'll mention our situation. Hopefully it's instructive to others in providing
Yeah.
what have you, but just in full disclosure, so we have been in the process of drafting a will. Now that there's another party at play, it's like, okay, we want to be mindful of all that. So we found these nice Muslim attorneys that do Sharia compliant wills, and candidly, and they have like a community of scholars that I think they defer to regarding rules and whatnot. But we've just been struggling a little bit with the realities of what they came up with. So I would just say broadly, the discussion was, if one of us dies before the other, like I would receive 1/8 of our joint assets, Eric would receive 1/6 of our joint assets, and then the family broadly will get the remaining amounts aside from the discretionary third. And we've just been, comically, but struggling with the notion of like,
that 1/8 is really, if with 1/8, the first thing that happens is that all of the assets are liquidated.
mhm,
And then those disbursements take place. 1/8 would leave my wife displaced.
mhm,
So my wife would be forced into dire straits with that 1/8. I think that we, the letter of the law in terms of mirath, in terms of inheritance, is worthy of consideration, but we also have to analyze the assumptions of mirath. So the Sharia assumes every woman to be the ward, to be to receive financial support from male members of her family. If not her husband, then her father. If not her father, then her brother. If not her brother, then her uncle. If not her uncle, then her even a distant relative. If not a distant relative, then her tribe. If not her tribe, then the Baitul Mal, the state itself. So when men are given this preferential portion, it's because men are assumed to have greater financial responsibility than women, right? Than women. In our case, that is just not always true. You know what I'm saying? You have, many women that in the event of their husband passing away, in fact, I would say the vast majority of modern women that I know would need to be prepared to care for themselves. More conservative scholars, they say this means that some wasiyah, some preparation should be made for women in that discretionary third, in that thuluth, much of that should be assets, perhaps property, and also liquid cash that is made available to women if someone wants to be responsible about how they're setting up their family in the inevitable passing that all of us will certainly experience at some point. So I would direct you to making use of that discretionary third as effectively as possible to see to it that you are covered and insured to the extent possible.
No, that makes sense. And that was one of the things that we had talked about. But to be honest, I'm not even as perturbed about the discrepancy between the 1/6 and the 1/8, and more so that, like, let's say I die, I would be concerned that Eric couldn't live the rest of his life on 1/6 of our joint, having to sell our house and then like do all these things. And then our kids get all this money and then he is stuck, having to grind in his twilight years and, eat applesauce and God knows what else. So I
hope he likes out.
How you were saying, I hope he likes applesauce. I guess I just worry because, like, not even just the assumptions about women, but even, all of the assumptions underlying, like, all of the caretakers that would be in a position to intervene or provide support at some point. I just worry that, and I don't want to be, blasphemous, but I feel like, we've had various discussions and like maqasid al-sharia, like preservation of human,
again,
and all of that. I fear it's not adequately protected under the realities that we're living with right now.
These are necessarily tense discussions. I mean, of course, we believe that the Quran is from God, and we believe that God is omniscient. God knows everything. However, we also understand that the Quran was revealed in a particular context. The Quran comes from beyond time space, but it enters real human communities, real realities, right? Contingencies. And the Quran aims at the preservation of real benefit. It's not, it's never, one scholar, Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi, who recently passed, Allah yarhamuhu, he said, it is important to remember that God is not benefited one iota by our obedience to him. This means that nothing in the Sharia is for God's benefit. All of it is for your benefit. Nothing in the Sharia is for God's benefit. All of it is for your benefit. So if we see the implementation of something in the Quran or the Sunnah not leading to the end, not leading to the objective that we know the Quran and Sunnah aim to protect or secure, it certainly warrants some investigation. It warrants, we have to look critically at this, and that's not blasphemous, right? That's not blasphemous. However, to be fair and to be, rooted in our devotional outlook, we do have to also understand that some of the moral considerations of the Quran might be different than our own. You know what I'm saying? So I recently, to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I recently was having this like existential crisis because a friend of 2 times, they have 3 children. They've been together 14 years. He gets upset in an argument and he says, you're divorced, right? Of course, they go to sleep, he wakes up, he wants to recant his statement. And I, having some background in Islamic legal study, I just thought, man, there has to be some way for us to find some legal hila, some tool, some pretext to keep this family together. I mean, he lost his temper. He said something regrettable. There must be something that we can use to get this family back together. I thought them being separated benefits no one, right? It harms the children. It harms her because, let's face it, in this Muslim community, the prospect of her remarrying, very, very difficult. It harms him. And so I went to a number of scholars representing a number of different legal schools, Hanafi scholars, Shafi'i scholars, Hanbali scholars, Maliki scholars, Salafi scholars. Say, okay, and I went to them like straight out, we have to find a way in the Sharia to get this family back together. And I was surprised that many of them expressed reluctance. God said, don't divorce a woman 3 times for a reason. There's reasoning there. I know you're thinking about family cohesion. You're thinking like you have your own moral considerations. God is showing you in the Quran, there are other moral considerations. Like one scholar said to me, one colleague, have you considered that God considers it oppressive for a woman to be to have her future jeopardized in that way? You're divorced. No, you're not. No, you. That this is harmful to women, and God refuses to allow that to happen. Right? As much as you're thinking about children and family cohesion, children have to be together. The moral consideration of the Quran might be something different than what you want. Right? So you have to also consider that. So in a case like this, all of these relatives that are inheriting, right? Because if 1/6 is going to Eric, right? Everything else, right? Everything after the 6th, right, is going. The other 2/3 is going to other relatives. We should also be willing to look at what is the Quran saying about, what is the Quran saying about the importance of those other familial bonds? That these are people that should inherit my children, my siblings, what is the Quran saying about the importance of those familial relationships, even though we perhaps place much less emphasis on them. For us, it's like husband, wife, everything else is, right? In fact, in my will, if I die before my wife, everything goes to my wife. And then I tell her to just give it out appropriately. Which is, entrusting her with a great deal. You take everything and you give, right? You consult people of knowledge and you make sure everyone gets what they're supposed to get, but we are intentional about making use of that discretionary 1/3. So, Allah, I am with you. I have been there with regard to many, contemporary applications of things from the Quran and the Sunnah. And I think these things do warrant conversation, investigation, study. And don't think of yourself as blasphemous because you want to protect certain interests that are worthy of being protected. It's just finding that balance. And the wisdom, I think, in all of this is that we stay actively engaged with the Quran, right? It is, walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. It is very easy. A person might think of themselves as more devoted or more committed, just mindlessly implementing whatever the Quran and Sunnah says. But what they're really doing is just intellectually checking out so as to cover their some of their doubt or misgiving about what they're reading. They're just saying, okay, just do it. Just do it. It's God, just do it. What I've seen is that if a person does that for many years, their faith can break down. Whereas if a person is actively every step saying, okay, look, I know this is from God. I know that God wants us to secure certain things that are real. I don't think that's being realized with that implementation in our context. How do we bridge this? Your faith stays honest. You keep your integrity. I know this is from Allah, right? And I know that Allah wants us to secure certain things that are very real. I don't see that happening here. What do we do about this? Right? And so, I think that these conversations should be raised to the level of deep scholarly analysis and discourse. And I appreciate your willingness to go there and know that that is something done in a spirit of devotion. That's not done in the spirit of hypocrisy or backsliding. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not talking about you, but don't take this the wrong way. But one person said to me, an atheist, not an agnostic person. The thing about an atheist is that they take God very seriously. That's why they've rejected God. Right? They take God like this is something very, very real. It's absolute. It's not an abstraction. And I cannot believe in this absolute conception of God. Of course, we would hope that they would have faith, but they do take God very seriously. It's not just I take God very, very seriously. People that take issue with some of what they find in the Quran, they take the Quran very seriously. It's not just a book that I put in the highest place in my house. I never really read it. I never think about it. I never engage it. I just learned from my grandparents, you're supposed to have some kind of romantic deference to it. They don't have any relationship with the Quran. But people that are like, this is challenging me. This is challenging me. Right? I'm struggling with this. Their relationship with the Quran is actually very sincere. Right? I know this is from God, but I'm struggling to understand this. Right? And sometimes what I've found is that when you reach that place, the best thing that you can do is just conscientiously pause. Just go pause. I don't understand this. I'm just going to pause. I'm going to pray and stay open to God revealing to me the wisdom of certain things and just pause. Right? It always hurts it really hurts me when somebody is troubled by something and they feel like they have to make a decision about it right there. I read something, I heard this hadith. I have to make a decision about it right now. Am I Muslim or not? I'm just like, subhanAllah. You have no understanding of how, it's like you read something, it made you uncomfortable. Pause, time out, pause. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is true. The Quran is true. I'm going to stop right there. I'm gonna allow this to, I'm gonna live with this tension for a little bit. We're gonna see what happens. In almost 100% of cases, I've seen people receive opening spiritually and intellectually, right? And intellectually. I heard the story of this one sister, devoted sister, but the marriage of the Prophet ﷺ to Aisha was just something that was troubling her. Just, she's like, I'm a Muslim, but something about this bothers me. Something about this is troubling me. And she didn't say anything, and she went to make an Umrah. And then after her Umrah, she went to Masjid al-Nabawi. She was in the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. She said she fell asleep in the masjid of the Prophet, and she had a dream. And in the dream, the Prophet ﷺ had his hand around Abu Bakr, and Aisha was sitting in front of them. And she said that the Prophet looked at her and said, friends, family. And then she woke up. Right? Then she woke up. And she said that she went to the Rawda, where the Prophet ﷺ is located, and she just started weeping, apologizing to the Prophet ﷺ, that she ever thought that this represented something untoward about his character. But she paused. She just paused. Sometimes it's, we encounter things that are like, right? What? Just pause. Just chill. Right? Your iman is not hanging on this one hadith. It's like this. My whole faith comes down to this statement in Bukhari. It's like just pause. Just pause. Right? But yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I also think about that 8th as being, and that 6th as being like, that could be challenging. Many scholars are very open to discussing the permissibility of life insurance, right? Insurance traditionally was considered something haram. All insurance in an original conception of the Sharia, right? All insurance is haram. Insurance is haram. Ta'meen haram. Because it contains what's called gharar. Gharar in Arabic means uncertainty. The Prophet ﷺ had two fundamentals when it came to business. Both of them involve clarity. Right? That was if you think about the Prophet ﷺ in commerce, he wants to avoid discrepancy. He wants to avoid a lack of clarity. That the person buying knows what she's buying and the person getting knows exactly what he's getting. So there's no room for exploitation. So you can't say you were exploited if you know this is what you get, this is what I get. It's very clear. Insurance represents a lack of clarity, right? I'm going to pay you for my policy. Whether or not I'm ever going to make use of it, we don't know. We don't know. Now, we have been socialized to see this as just. See, I don't see it as just. So maybe I'm one of the last Americans that I think about, but how many years have I been without an auto accident? How much money have I given State Farm? Just giving you money. You've given me little cards that I put in my glove compartment. That's what my money has. That's what my money has gotten me. Now, of course, I am supposed to believe that were I to get into an accident, you would have covered me. Right? But it's a gamble. It's like the lottery in reverse. See, insurance represents the lottery nobody wants to hit. But somebody will hit. Somebody is going to get into an accident. Someone's house is going to get flooded. Someone's house is going to catch on fire. Someone is going to get sick. Someone is going to die before their term. But of course, the vast majority of the policyholders are not. That's why it's a $1 billion industry. Right? The Prophet ﷺ did not like that. No. Business is clear. I spend money. This is the service that I get. In the story. Or I give you the money. If after some point I don't get into an accident, you give it back to me. Right? I gave you the money. It was there for me in case I did. After 50 years or something like that. Never had an auto accident. Alhamdulillah. You just give me the money back. Thanks for holding. Of course, it doesn't work like that. Right? Of course, it doesn't work like that. Right? So that's the original conception of Sharia. However, two factors that I think affect a contemporary ruling on insurance. One, it's legally mandated. Certain insurances are legally, health insurance, auto insurance. Legally mandated. Renters insurance, many places you rent, legally mandated, you have to have it. Two, we are people that are very comfortable living beyond our means. Right? Like, if I hit someone's car and I'm liable, I actually don't have the money I could not fix it. And this is a kind of like umum and belwa. This is the normal state of my society, that we drive cars that we have financed. We can't afford to fix our own cars if something happens to them. We certainly can't afford to fix anyone else's car. Right? Similarly, we live in homes. We have mortgages for those homes. If something happens to me without life insurance, my wife is forced into homelessness, right? So many scholars say, on account of these realities, these necessities, insurance in a modern American capitalist society is halal. By darura, it's not originally halal. It's halal by necessity. It has to be halal. Just because modern life requires these protections. Like Allah is saying, what happens to Eric if she dies? What happens to her if Eric dies? Right? So you also might want to consider life insurance.
Oh, that's all very helpful. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh.
Other questions? I think takaful is beautiful. Takaful is a system where people give essentially in sadaqah, in charity, monthly. And if someone ends up injured or hurt, or it's kind of like money given intentionally monthly in community. It's kind of like self-insurance. We're self-insured. Well, all of us commit to giving $100 a month, but it will be a lot. Like takaful is effective when it's a lot of people. Say we have 1,000 people, right? And all of us commit to giving $100 a month. How much money is that a month? $100,000. If anyone has a life circumstance that they have to access those resources, they can access it. Because it's such a small amount to us monthly, it doesn't hurt anybody. And it can help everyone. Nobody is hurting over the $100 a month. It doesn't hurt anybody. Right? And the person giving it, until if they don't access it, they receive, it's like sadaqah. They give it with the intention of sadaqah. Whoever is in need of this will get it. This was like a classical Islamic alternative to insurance. They would do takaful. In the Middle East, they still do it. They still do it. But this is like old, this is how they would do insurance. That everybody just give this small amount every month. We get a large pool of people. Whoever has a legitimate reason to access the funds, they access it. It's not gonna hurt anybody. $100 a month for your own. So it's like insurance, but it's different. It's given with the intention of sadaqah. Give it, it's over. Now, one could say, I give to State Farm in the same way. I give them $231 every month, and the person that gets into an auto accident, they get to access it or something like that. The only difference is that in takaful, all of the money given remains in the community trust. In State Farm, the money goes into the pockets of very wealthy executives. That's the difference. In takaful, all the money stays here. We give $100 every month, just a round number, 100,000. It stays right there. It doesn't go. It's just a community trust. So we have $1.2 million every year for emergencies. Right? It's there. If no one gets into it, we keep rolling it. For people that are thinking of alternatives to insurance, takaful and it works. I've actually seen communities where takaful, it works. It's to most Americans who can only think of people as being motivated by greed. They think, why would somebody do that? Why would you just give $100 a month in charity that you can access if something happens? Why? Why do that? It's like, no, this is a great means of providing community support and getting edger from Allah and sadaqah. I give $100 a month. Each month is just sadaqah. I just send it in. It's okay. If something happens to me, I'll be able to access those resources as well. You know, it's funny. MashaAllah, may Allah bless you. I don't hear people talk about takaful anymore.
So strange. You have like in the US that are Muslim by millions, right?
Millions. Think about what we could do with takaful. If we had these large, we say like 2 million people giving $100 every month. We could, I mean, it could be huge. It could be a huge amount of resources that could be used to help people with everything from paying for college to rebuilding their homes in the incident of a fire or something like that. It could be huge. Right? It could be huge. I think, but Muslims are human beings too. So I mean, you probably have many cases of fraud, and this happened to me, and I need the money, and so I'd imagine it wouldn't be as simple as all of us sitting here on Monday night on the on the blue rug, just saying, oh yeah, a couple $1 million here, a couple $1 million there. Anyone who needs it, just go in and pull it. So then you have imagine like a modern takaful claims adjuster. He's like, so what happened? Can anybody testify to this? He's like, how much do you need? 30,000. Who saw this? I just talked to people in Rogers Park. They said, you don't even have a car. You're lying. Salam alaikum. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, how does it, so it's fraud, but it's a great idea. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Other comments, ideas, concerns? Yes.
When you were saying earlier that there are some scholars who are more conservative in their approach, and there's some who I guess are more grounded in modernist context. I mean, how do we, what do you think is the wisdom behind these? Because they can have really profound implications on something like that. And what is our responsibility as far as seeking out these benefits for ourselves from?
I think it's more art than science. I think the goal of every Muslim scholar, he or she wants to do two things: serve the interests of people, which are completely legitimate, and maintain the integrity of the Quran and the Sunnah. That's the goal. Right? And I think that everybody is coming down on these kinds of questions, different places on that spectrum. Some people come all the way, preserve the integrity of the Quran and Sunnah, even if it means destroying the interests of people. Right? I've seen that, unfortunately. And it's sad that those people actually think they're doing something good. Right? That I am going to stick with this, even if it means destroying the livelihood, destroying the ambition, destroying the hope. I mean, can you imagine, a young person from an impoverished family that has the drive, the ambition, and the talent to go to college, but would need to take out some loans, being told that's haram. Go get a job working in, some field that is beneath your ambition. This is what Allah wants for you. SubhanAllah. But I know people that have been told something like that. Right? And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum that is like, look, we live in a time where riba, interest is just, it's everywhere. One would be foolish to even try to avoid it. It's everywhere. The very fiat currency in your bank account, is subject to depreciation. So we're not talking about dirhams and dinars, gold and silver pieces of fixed value. Come on, man. We're way past that. And they might just give people carte blanche, just whatever and I don't see them as people that hate the Quran and the Sunnah or something like that. They just think, no, people need to have their interests supported. The Sharia is not, Muslim scholars traditionally never prided themselves on saying no. That was never, that's much more a post-colonial reality. You see, that's a post-colonial, subhanAllah, sometimes reading in Islamic tradition, it's amazing to see how Muslims spoke when they had self-confidence, when they had integrity. Like a person could just look at something and say, we have to find a way to make this halal because people need to be able to do this. Like you find that in like classical books of fiqh, like we have to find a way to make this kind of transaction halal because we have to facilitate international trade. And if we stick to the letter of the law, it will destroy trade partnerships that are necessary for our society to flourish. They could just say that. Because when they said that, there was no suspicion that you're trying to be like them, the West. For them, it was just, we're not trying to be like anybody. We're Muslims, we're proud. It's not, I think after the experience of colonialism, every concession is seen as a capitulation to Western influence. Anything you think, we want to do this, you say no, not just to maintain the integrity of the Quran and Sunnah, but to resist colonial takeover. And I think Muslims are still kind of coming out of those basements, right? Muslims are still, it's been a slow process. Muslims are still making their way out of those kind of post-colonial basements. I don't think it's just by saying everything contained in the status quo. Yeah, we have to find a way to make it halal. Because if we do that, we really will be subject to these people for the rest of our existence. Like that's really, one scholar, he almost made me cry. He said, the future of Islam is the past of the West. Oh. He said, you want to know what our future? Our future is their past. That's how behind we are. Our future is their past. Like the things that they're on to something else, and we're still talking about Rousseau. We're still, it's like our future is the stuff they've moved past. Like they're recognizing the failure of modern banking, and we're still trying to figure out a way to implement modern banking. It's like our future is their past. How depressing is that? It's like, how depressing is that, right? So I do think we have to represent an alternative, but we have to protect people's interests, man. We are a community of, and I say this cautiously. I trust Sania. I trust her, right? But I say this: we are a community of success. And I'm not saying that it's like we need like a Muslim prosperity gospel. No, that's not what I mean. Meaning, Islam goes to places and it flourishes. This is one of the things that has historically distinguished Islam. Islam is not a religion that, it enters a place and the Muslims, Islam doesn't give Muslims the ability to become prosperous or become successful or become culturally viable or efflorescent. That's not how we roll. That's why, as quiet as it's kept, Muslim like American conservatives that are saying like, look, you guys don't understand. Wherever Muslims go, they really want to take over. That's what they do historically. I'm like, no, this is true. You know, like, this is, it doesn't mean that we don't want to be good neighbors but no, they have a point. And like, no, they're just smiling and waving flag. No, they have a civilization of preeminence. We do. This is the truth. This is the truth. We do. So, people have to be equipped in terms of being able to own property. Able to experience success in commerce, in their professions. We have to find a way to get those things done. That is a part of what we do. This is called isti'mar or ta'mir. This is a part of what we do. Like, we have to understand we have never just been like mendicants, like people that are just in society, very devoted, but poor, no influence, no wealth, no culture, but we pray a lot and we love serving people. That's never been the history of Islam. It's never been the history of Islam. So I'm with you. So we have to find a way to get done what needs to be done, right? But we have to also, we believe that we can do that while honoring the integrity of the Quran and the Sunnah. And we believe the correct implementation of those will not prevent us from our mission. We are people with a mission, man. Don't forget that. Sometimes we forget, like, we are on a mission, not, and I'm not, look, just in case anybody's listening, I'm not saying that we want to turn California into California or something. I'm not saying anything, but we do have a mission. Oh yeah, we have a mission. I remember one of my teachers was in Egypt studying at Azhar. And there were some people in Pennsylvania that had an opportunity to get some land and they wanted to build this beautiful masjid on the land. But it would require them taking out a mortgage. And they had a board meeting about it. The board was split. Some people said we should do it. Some people said no, it's haram, it's riba, things like this. And so someone wrote to him and said, ask the teachers at Azhar, what should we do? Now, Azhar, in some quarters, is known for its permissiveness, right? But I think the reasoning of the board of scholars they asked was compelling. They said, for Muslims to be in America, to have their heads down, to not have places of worship that command respect and inspire pride, and they're living as a minority, this is haram. This is haram. Right? It's not supposed to be like that. Right? And just that statement, it let me know that even them sitting in Egypt, they recognize, man, we're a minority religious community. If Islam becomes synonymous with women losing their husbands and then being poor, if Islam becomes synonymous with involuntary celibacy, women can't get married. If Islam becomes synonymous with, a lack of financial success, a lack of prosperity, what does that mean for the future of Islam in America? What is that like? And again, this is not an endorsement of like a prosperity gospel, but I am saying you have to play the game. If you're going to be a minority religious community, you're not playing to lose. You're playing to establish your community strongly. That's the goal. So for the scholars that look at Islamic law and thinking, okay, we want to respect the integrity of our tradition, but we want to establish our community strongly, that is also a priority, right? That is also a priority. So I think, I say all of that to say I don't know, but getting things done is a part of our religion, right? We don't show up to lose. Never has any Muslim commander showed up to a battlefield and said, okay, we're all about to be martyrs. No, it's not who we are. We've come for victory. And if we lose, we'll get martyred. We're here for victory. We're not here to, and victory doesn't mean, like I said, we're trying to just, take over. No, we want to take over America culturally. Yes, I'll say that. I don't care if you're listening to that. We want to take over America culturally. We want them to see the beauty of Islamic norms and for people to say, that's an inspiring way to live. I like that. That's really beautiful. I like that. Yes, we want that. You can't do that if you're a loser. You have no institutions, no wealth, no cultural influence. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And this is what I say to all my conservative friends, you create that kind of community, and then you're wondering why you're losing your children. Aha. Hello. You don't see it? Right? And we have tense debates in those rooms. You create a community where Muslims can't own property, they can't go to school, they can't be successful, they can't, accumulate wealth. And then you wonder, I wonder why no kids want to be Muslim. Hello? You don't see it? It doesn't work like that. And so if you're not ready to play the game here, maybe you should make hijrah. Go back to Egypt. Because if you're playing the game here, there's a way the game has to be played. And I'm not angry. I just want to see us win. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilu s-salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Subhana rabbika rabbil 'izzati 'amma yasifun wa salamun 'ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil 'alamin. When the game must be played. You think I want my daughter? She's looking at all of these people and she sees, empowerment and capacity, and being a Muslim woman represents the opposite of that. No, that can't be. No, that can't be. Oh,